let's get some collisions up and running to add some more interesting features to our game. What I'm going to do is just create a simple 3D cube, and I'm going to reset this back to the origin and move it back a little bit and up a little bit so that it's just sitting there. And this is something that we're going to interact with as our player. Next, I want to go to my player and add a new component. We're going to create a new script. I'm going to call this interactive mechanics. Just a simple basic script for now, just to showcase a couple of features and pop this thing open. And what I need to do in this script is enable one of our collision events. And in Unity, we have a number of different types of collision events. If I start typing on collision, I see I have an on collision enter and exit, which are the normal ways that we work with colliding with things. However, when I have a character controller, like I have on this character, I need to work with collisions slightly differently. I need to say on controller collider hit. And this is kind of the specialized way of doing collisions when a character controller is on our character like we have right now. For now, what I want to do is just debug.log a hit something message whenever a collision occurs. And let's run my program and just see what this does to kind of get a bit more of an intuition for how this collider is working. So I'm going to go into my console and I see that my hit something is running every single moment of the game. What's going on? Well, if I jump, I see that that stops updating. Watch this. I'm in the air. It's not running anymore. I'm on the ground. It's running. What's happening is my gravity is causing me to continuously contact the ground, which is causing a collision to occur, which is, well, not exactly what I'm looking for here, because I need it to be a bit more in control than just constantly being triggered over and over again. So I need to add a little bit more code to this. And here's where another system in Unity comes into play. If I choose this object and go to the inspector up here, I see there's a feature called a tag, which is labeled untagged on the top right. Think of a tag as a labeling system for different types of objects. And if I pull down this menu, there's some that are set here automatically. However, I want to create a custom one. So I'm going to click on Add Tag and get to this list that's currently empty of tags and press this plus button. This allows me to create a custom name for this tag. I'm going to call this interactive, or maybe, interactive is good for now. So whatever gets tagged with this interactive will have a special state in my world. The ground has no tag, and neither does this cube until I select interactive from this list. And now this has a special identity in my world. And if I go into my code, I can type in an if statement, a piece of conditional logic, and go like this. I'm going to go the hit, the collision, the thing that I hit in my collision, if that game object has a tag that's equal to interactive, like I have tagged it here. If I've connected with something that's interactive, only then do I want to log. This is going to bug me because I capitalized. Then I can log this message. So only interact with it if it's tagged interactive. Let's head back into my game and see what happens this time. Now, my player moving around the world, there's no messages in the console. Notice down here, no messages popping up until I touch this block. And now it says I hit something. Now it triggers a bunch of times as I continue to push into it, but I'm continuously hitting it over and over each frame so that message is popping up, and as I walk away, no more pop-ups. I can actually have this logged down here. If I click on collapse, any similar repeated behavior will be on one line. It'll just say how many times it's happened. So 797, 841, so it's hitting many times every moment of the game, every single frame that it's running, it's hitting again and again. 1,336 times so far. That'll be enough for now. So I've been able to curate the list of interactive events by tagging things and then controlling what I interact with through a tag check. So now that I've been able to do this, let's add something maybe a little bit more interesting into what it is that occurs when we touch something. Let's go and snag some scripts from our folder here. Object Destroyer and Player Object Knockback. I'm going to drag these into my project. And these are both scripts that I'm going to be able to add to my player. Let's first add player object knockback. Actually, you know what? Before we do that, let's do one other thing here. I'm gonna actually borrow something from another thing I was gonna do. So let's go and actually be able to, let's see, change the color of this object when we touch it. We already have a script that allows something interactive. After I log, hit something, what I want to do next is actually change information. I'm not going to explain in great detail what this piece of code does. I'm going to copy and paste it. But basically what I'm doing is I'm getting access to the renderer. What is that? Well, it's the thing that actually renders the color of this block, this renderer. If I turn it off, it goes invisible. So I'm getting access to the renderer of something, and I'm going to change the information about it. So what I want to do here is actually have the thing that I hit. I'm going to get the component from this game object, and I'm going to change the color of that object when I hit it here. Let's see if this works. Run my game here, turn my character around, and now when I touch this, it triggers that I hit something, but it's having some issues actually processing the color change. So let's kind of troubleshoot and debug, what might be going on here to be able to fix this issue. And I've tracked down the error. The error was I didn't press save, so my script didn't actually remember when I imported into Unity properly. So now that I press save in my script, there's nothing wrong with the code. When I touch this object now, you'll notice that the color changes for every touch. So here's a nice way of confirming that I'm actually touching it, and I can actually give it a command of a way to respond to this contact. Pretty cool. Well, let's try something a little bit different. So now we also have some of these other scripts that we've dragged into here under our script setting. Excuse me. And let's start with, let's go with, I thought I moved another one in here. Spin object, simple player, light timer, advanced, object destroyer. I thought we had pulled in a different one here. Let's take a look. Object destroyer and player object knockback. Oh, I'm just blind. Here it is. So player object knockback, I provided this to you. Let's take a quick peek at the script and see what it does. It's going to check for a collision, and once it does, it's going to get access to a rigid body. A rigid body, if you remember from our first week of tutorials, is something that allows physics to occur on an object, which means anything that I collide with, to be able to do this, to apply a push, I need it to have a rigid body. So let's add one. I'm going to add a rigid body to this block, which means it's now considered to be a part of the physics system. Once it has a rigid body, I'm going to check if it has one, and then I'm going to make sure that I'm only pushing things from the side, and I'm going to add some power. I'm going to actually push this, add some velocity to it. Let's see what this looks like when I touch it. Now, I do have both scripts running, both the color one and the push one. So we'll see here that now when I touch it, I'm actually moving it around slightly and having its color change. I could change on my player the push power to 20 and see, bam, now this thing gets a nice jolt and slides along the map a little bit because it has some physics. Bam, change the color, send it on its way. Bam, change the color, send it on its way. So this is kind of a fun little dynamic mechanic to have, and I shove it off the edge and say bye-bye to that cube. But I now have the ability to trigger a different type of response, and I'm having two happen at the same time, which is kind of cool. Okay, let's go with a third one here. I'm going to, for now, remove these scripts, and I'm going to set this back and try our third one here called Object Destroyer. Now, this script looks for something called a destroyable to destroy it. It's only allowed to destroy things called destroyables. So what I can do with this now is think about, well, adding a tag called destroyable to my game. Now, anything tagged with destroyable, excuse me, something in my throat here. Anything tagged with destroyable should be able to be destroyed when I touch it. I'm going to add the destroyable tag to both of these objects and see what happens. Now, when I touch it, it's removed from the world. And that one as well. None of these other things are destroyables, so I can't destroy them, but this would be a cool mechanic to have a way to kind of find a secret path to something or to interact with the world in a unique way. Just another example of a behavior. If I find a destroyable, I'm going to destroy the thing that I've interacted with. So there's a few examples of the different types of collisions. I've given you 2 of these scripts that you can play with, but maybe you can come up with your own ideas for different types of responsive events that occur once something is collided with as you explore on your own. In the next video, we're going to talk about triggers a little bit more.